are we?
We're at Beijing railway station.
And like everything in China, this place is enormous. It's quite imposing, but it does have some Chinese touches to the roof, which I quite like. It's a little oriental. Can I say that? That's the style, isn't it? Because today we are getting a sleeper train from the capital of China, Beijing, all the way to the closest city to North Korea, Dandong. But I think it's time to get inside, find our platform, and also figure out how we get on this train. This train station is like a bit of a time warp. There's chandeliers in the ceiling, big, grand waiting rooms. I feel like I've stepped back in time. But then
I've spotted a noodle pot vending machine. I think that's really cool and we should have them in the UK.
as we waited for our train, which was just part one of our mission, there was something we were worried about.
One of the things that is making us a little bit nervous about this sleeper train is that we don't have a private room. Who's our bunk bed mates going to be? So we're going to be staying in the most expensive sleeper cabin, but we will be sharing it with 2 other strangers. And I don't know why that's making me feel anxious. Like, it should be an exciting thing because it's a chance to meet new people and we might get on really well and kind of share interesting stories on this 14-hour train journey.
On the other hand, you could get a snorer. But despite this hanging over us, we couldn't really complain because this is one of the cheapest sleeper trains in the whole of China. But at this point, people started to gather to get on board. K27, we're on the board, baby. I think this is people queuing for our train. And we were one step closer to finding out who our bunkmates were going to be. I'm imagining that the majority of people on this train will be Chinese. I don't think there's going to be many other Westerners on here. Whilst Europe is having a sleeper train renaissance, China is known as the sleeper train capital of the world, and they do things a little differently.
So somehow our train tickets are just automatically attached onto the passport, which makes it really easy. It's facial recognition. They are checking your passport against you and then you get through.
But even though the tickets are quite high tech, what we're boarding tonight is far more old school. The train is green and yellow, hasn't changed for 70 years. This traditional sleeper train is slow. But with a country as big as China and a population of over 1 billion people, jumping on a sleeper train is very common and seen as an affordable way to move from city to city, especially during busy periods like Lunar New Year, when plane tickets will often sell out. And I can see inside it looks pretty good. A little cramped, but good. So let's get on. We are on coach 11. Smells of smoke. This train heading for the DPRK is just one of the unusual trains we've tried. So go back and watch these, and also please subscribe. Okay, the train is now moving. We are off.
So it begins.
The train sets off at 5:30 in the evening and it gets into the Dandong station at 7 in the morning, I think.
I hope that we get a few hours of daylight just so we can keep looking out the window.
But besides the Beijing views rolling past, since getting on the train, we had some initial impressions. In some aspects, it is better than I expected. In other aspects, it's worse. So we've got some sinks here for washing yourself. And you would need a deep chemical clean if you chose to use one of these toilets on board. And what you can't see is the smell of this room. And talking of smells, this train also has like a smell of cigarettes, which isn't a bad thing.
No.
Which probably has something to do with the onboard smoking area. If there's one thing I know about China is that people love smoking here. So there wouldn't be a train that goes for 14 hours without having a smoking area. But although we'd briefly seen our room on board when we dropped our bags off, Ryan, ni hao, and Jade, Ryan, Jade. At the moment there's only one guy in our cabin. Maybe we'll luck out and there'll just be 3 of us in there. Because the more people, the more body heat, and the hotter it is going to get in there.
Our roommate seems really nice, but he doesn't speak a lot of English, and we don't speak much Chinese. But I'm sure that as the hours pass by, we will find a way to communicate.
This train has 3 different classes of sleeping arrangements. Let me explain. You have hard seats, which are just seats that you spend all night in, sat upright. You have hard sleepers, which don't have a mattress, and there are 3 bunks, so bottom, middle, and top. And then you have soft sleepers, which are the most expensive. They are 4 people, and there is just a top bunk and a bottom bunk. We are in soft sleepers. And before we show you around our room in full, We're now going to go and have a look at some of the other sleeping arrangements and seats available on this train. First up, it was the hard sleepers.
It's actually pretty peaceful, I would say.
Which holds 6 people in one compartment.
There's obviously the 6 beds. You get a little bit more space and it feels like there's aircon.
There's definitely no aircon in ours. So these cabins that we've just walked past there have 3 bunk beds high, but they're more open plan and they're more social. And I feel like you'd meet more people in there, which is one of the reasons people do travel by train rather than plane in China.
But at this point, we were starting to get peckish. What I have observed so far is the most popular snack by a long way is noodle pots. There is hot water in abundance on this train and everyone is running to the hot water station to get their noodle pot filled up. We have got snacks from 7-Eleven, which we will show you later, but hopefully the dining car, the restaurant on this train, has something to offer. But we're gonna head there now. Due to our embarrassing lack of Mandarin, there was some slight confusion before we were shown to our table. Train food in the UK meant that anything more than a stale sandwich and a $10 watery coffee would have surpassed our expectations. But this low benchmark was about to be absolutely smashed. Oh, and we weren't sure if we were allowed to film in here, which is the reason for the unusual camera angle.
When I saw this carriage, I immediately felt excited.
There's something quite charming about the fact that it feels like going into a time machine. It feels nostalgic, it feels quite quaint, and it feels like it hasn't been changed for a long time.
So in the snack carriage, these tables are reserved for people that are eating the main food. But the interesting thing is that there is no menu in here. So you just sit down and you get whatever is being served up that day. The carriage isn't full. If this was in the UK, it would be an absolute rammed carriage.
Be a bonfire.
It would be a bonfire if this was in the UK. Also, you just wouldn't get table service like this. You wouldn't get like the food delivered to your table.
But it wasn't just the table service that was impressive.
Some of the food that we've had in China since arriving has been quite questionable and spicy. This is one of the best meals I've had in China. It was 50 yuan each for dinner, which is £5.
And we had our food within 10 minutes and it's been a really nice tray. It's kind of like tapas, how you get like 6 different things.
Tapas or prison.
As far as train food goes, I think that was pretty good. The meatball being the highlight.
And the other highlight was this bargain.
We also got a beer, which was 60p. Can't say fairer than that.
And the price was so good, I actually had to double check I've been charged correctly.
It's 65p for these. That is a bargain. Lukewarm Yangjing beer. A new one for me. Some people collect them, don't they? They tick off every type of beer they've ever had. I don't do that. But this would be a good one for the books if I did.
And if you want a second beer,
there is a snack trolley and you just hail him down as he comes past.
Can I get one more beer? Oh. Yeah. It's a bit colder, this one.
But despite the language barrier on board the train,
so far everyone we've encountered has been very friendly. Not a lick of English, but very friendly.
And maybe it was the beer, maybe it was because we were hurtling towards North Korea, or maybe it was just the current setting. But Jade was in her feels.
I'm on a train in China, the sun is setting, the food is good. I'm having a nice time and we're only 30 minutes in.
And it made us think about the fact that modernisation isn't always a good thing. That restaurant experience on the train was incomparable in comparison to the Hong Kong brand new sleeper train. In there was only 3 seats. There was hardly any food available and it was all sort of like dry packed food. Here, it was quite the opposite. Far, far better. And just a really cool experience. I don't know why there weren't more people in the restaurant, to be honest. But before we headed to our cabin,
I was a little bit nervous because I thought that they wouldn't have like any communal area to sit outside of the cabins because they are quite small. So just to spend a few hours in there has been a really nice way to spend the evening.
There was one final part of the train we hadn't yet looked at. The final frontier is the seated accommodation, but there's actually a locked door between the dining carriage and the hard seats, so we can't get to them. And I think it's to stop people buying a hard seat and then walking through into the sleeper carriage and just jumping on a bed that is free, which makes sense. But it also means we can't go and have a look at them. But I think with that, it's probably time to head to our sleeper carriage and meet our roommates.
Ni hao.
We've done everything we can to procrastinate, and it is now time.
Ni hao.
Our two roommates were chatting away as we headed inside our soft sleeper cabin. Unlike some other Chinese sleeper trains, there was no amenity kit, just a bottle of water waiting for us. And the room was pretty small and very well worn.
Okay, so we've got bunk bed 1, 2, 3 and 4. That is basically it for the room. The door slides.
But as we made ourselves comfy, we remembered our unusual Chinese 7-Eleven snack haul.
This is banana bread. It's not a banana, it's banana bread. That's innovative.
And despite being very full from our dining cart meal,
we have some very extraordinary flavours of crisp that we need to try.
Cucumber Lays, orange flavoured crisps. Forgot about these ones. I couldn't even tell you what bamboo tastes like, but after I've tried these, I will.
the crisp selection was a mixed bag, with some highs.
The bamboo crisp tastes like when the grass has been mowed outside. It tastes like that smell.
And some lows.
5 out of 10, wouldn't buy again.
But after a thinly veiled attempt at offloading the crisp excess...
Would you like a crisp? No? Would you? No? Okay.
It was almost time for lights out.
I always find this part funny because I don't know when the lights get turned off and when I should go and start putting my pyjamas on and stuff. I've also decided that I'm having the bottom bunk.
So neither of our roommates speak English, it turns out, but we did try and make an effort, and actually I did have a conversation with one of their sons.
How old are you?
17? 18?
Yes, I know what you mean.
I like your accent.
I like your accent.
Anyway, it's time for bed. Got to brush the teeth. Jade's already in her pyjamas.
Feeling a little bit apprehensive about whether I'm actually going to get any sleep or not tonight, but the bed feels comfy and I am quite tired, so fingers crossed.
But little did we know, as we went to bed that evening, the worst case scenario was about to unfold. It's the morning after, the night before. Sleep out of 10.
Sleep rating out of 10 is like a 2.
Upon first glance, our roommates looked like normal men. But after spending a night in a cabin with them, their level of snoring would make them at least partially a rhinoceros. But it wasn't just the snoring we had to contend with.
It's currently 3 in the morning and the worst imaginable thing happened. One of our roommates went up for a wee and realised that he couldn't open the door. I thought the door was locked and that we couldn't get out. I'm not a claustrophobic person, but in that situation I was immediately claustrophobic.
So the man that has kept the whole carriage up then woke the whole carriage up with all the commotion that the door was locked.
4 hours to go.
But besides all the snoring and the door being locked saga, we had another problem.
I'm also looking forward to getting some fresh air.
The air in that room is definitely not fresh.
Sometimes the man took a break from snoring to fart.
Really?
Yeah. And of course, it goes without saying, if you come on board a sleeper train and expect a good night's sleep, I think you are deluded. Not only are you with other people who might snore, but also the train is so rocky. And this train in particular, because it's old, it kind of click-clacks over the railway. And at every station, you just get jolted around. But our rhino roommate was like Jekyll and Hyde. He was a terrible roommate. However, this morning, he's then been really nice and has been translating recommendations for dandong for me. So he's been really nice when he's awake, but when he's asleep, that guy's a demon. But besides 0 hours sleep, there was another major concern we had this morning.
I've just been looking on the maps and we are now extremely close to North Korea.
Whoa, we are now as close as you can get to North Korea.
Probably closer than I ever imagined I would be in this lifetime.
But now it's time to get off the train and we will tell you the price and also explore the closest city to North Korea, Dandong.
Hey Jay, bye.
One of the issues with that train is that your seat, your bed, your ticket is attached to your passport number, so you can only book one bed or one seat. So the price of this is pretty reasonable, and in theory you could book all 4 beds in that cabin without breaking the bank, but that is not possible because you don't have 4 different passport numbers. That being said, it's probably a good system because it means that people can't just like bulk book all of the seats, so you do get them at face value.
The price of this train was £45 a person, and considering the length of the train, it actually works out as China's cheapest sleeper train. But now it is time to go and explore Dandong,
the city closest to North Korea in China. Our immediate impressions of Dandong were unexpected. Not only have we got a massive statue of Mao, we've also got a massive ping pong ball. But the first place to check off was obvious. Welcome to the North Korean border. So this is China, and then that is North Korea. So this is actually the largest border town in the whole of China, and 70% of all of the trade between China and North Korea comes through this bridge behind me.
So you might be wondering, why would we visit here? And there's two reasons. I am fascinated by places that we're not that easily able to go to, and this place kind of gives you a little slice of it. So not only can you see it behind us, but there's also North Korean specialty restaurants, there's a shopping street dedicated to it, and there's a whole load of stuff here that we can explore without actually setting foot in North Korea.
And this isn't because we don't want to visit the country. As UK citizens, we are not actually allowed into North Korea. We're banned. You can't get a visa, you're not allowed to enter. But with just a tiny strip of water between us, I wonder if anyone's swam this. This is how close I can get. This is North Korean water. It actually smells of kimchi. We wanted to see how close we could get. So we've just paid £3 each for a ticket to come on what is called the Broken Bridge. The reason it's called that is because you can walk to the end of it, but the end of it is missing.
I think it has something to do with the Americans.
The Americans actually bombed it during the Korean War so that China couldn't send reinforcements into North Korea to help with the conflict.
But obviously every step that we take, we are getting closer and closer to North Korea, and the skyline suddenly feels as though I could touch it.
I'm just going to pull up Google Maps and see how close we actually are. Whoa! Google is saying that we're actually past the black line. So Google Maps is actually saying that we're technically in North Korea right now.
I don't know how I feel about this. It's just not a location that I'd ever thought I'd see myself in.
And having now technically entered the world's most secretive country, this was the view. This is China, and this is North Korea. Not as built up, few flats and one crazy circle building. There also seems to be a water slide.
Or a roller coaster.
And it reminded us of another North Korean view that we'd had a few years ago.
Because we have actually once before been to the DMZ in South Korea. From that viewing point, it was basically just farmland. This is a completely contrasting view.
But although the broken bridge still remains and is now a tourist attraction, they rebuilt the railway line on this bridge here.
A train has appeared and started going into Korea. So we've actually just seen like stuff being imported into the country. I think this is the only place in the world where you can see that happen.
But having ticked off our first Dandong activity, we needed more.
This has been an amazing view, but you can't really get a proper perspective on it.
We are heading to the 11th floor of this hotel at the end of the bridge. The Zhongline International Hotel probably has one of the most unique views in the world, and something else unique in the lobby.
This here is extremely special because it is the biggest jade in Dandong. I'm Jade and small. This is Jade and big.
But as we headed to the room, we were about to get a new perspective. Welcome to one of the only hotel rooms in the world that has a view of North Korea. This place is crazy and gives you a totally different perspective on how close we are. Jade has got the prime position here.
This is an armchair with a view.
We've obviously got the old bridge that was bombed that you can see in the distance. You can see the new railway and road bridge that they have built right next door to it. Oh look, there's a van going down it now. There's quite frequent trade between the two countries. You can see there is a lorry coming through with God knows what. We'll flash up here what the key exports and imports are across this bridge.
My thoughts are that the view feels as though I shouldn't be looking at it.
So the hotel room also comes with a set of binoculars, which are pretty handy. You can also see the section that China built of the bridge and the section that Korea built of the bridge. And because of the binoculars and the new iPhone zoom feature, we can see right into the country. I'm pretty sure that no one is living in that crazy circle building. And the lack of people wasn't just in the circle building, which is supposedly a hotel, restaurant and apartment building. But it is funny because there is a lot of people on the Chinese side. There seems to be nothing going on the Korean side. There are no cars, no people to speak of. So we obviously have a list of things that we're going to tick off today. And you'd have thought that we've got as close to North Korea as possible, but you would be wrong. We are actually going to go even closer, hopefully. What are you up to now?
So I'm trying to buy tickets to go on one of these boat tours that we've seen going up and down. And I think the easiest way to do it will be on Trip, just because, I mean, it's $8.
Per person.
Per person.
And the $8 boat trip was a good example of how cheap things are here. The hotels here are super cheap. You can get a 5-star hotel for just £40 a night. A 20-minute taxi ride will cost you under £1. And to get onto the bridge is $3. So everything is very cheap in Dandong. Before we tried to find some North Korean products for sale, we had to try the area's #1 tourist attraction. There's actually quite a few people on here, so I think this takes half an hour. It's going to take us into North Korean water, and you can rent binoculars.
These seem like better than the ones in the hotel room. I feel like a spy.
At first, the boat hugged the Chinese shore, but then it started to head towards the North Korean land. We are currently still in Chinese water on the Yalu River, and we got so close.
With the binoculars, you can kind of see straight into some of the buildings. It's just fascinating, and I don't know what it is that's so intriguing about it, but to be able to get that close is pretty surreal.
Jade is checking out the view from out the window. I'm going to go out the back and on the roof and see what we can see. So there are also some small military ships. I think they patrol the water. And besides the lack of people, the skylines of each of the countries was the big difference. I don't think this place is particularly well travelled and popular with Westerners, but as China opens up and becomes more popular, I think this is an interesting place to come for sure, and this gives you a new perspective on a country that we know very little about. But our final verdict of the cruise was this.
That was fascinating.
And it was time to see if we could hunt down a North Korean beer, but not before a quick sidetrack. Okay, all I keep thinking about is these beaches that we're walking along. Imagine the crazy stuff you could find if you metal detected around here. You might see messages in a bottle, you might see artillery, I don't know what you might see. That is a piece of jewellery. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to try and find some North Korean memorabilia in the multiple shops that are around here. So after browsing, we discovered that there was plenty of souvenirs to choose from, and I have a bag full. But we did uncover a slight problem. Okay, in the rush of getting all these products, I'm not sure they are actually North Korean. They might just be Korean.
It's actually nothing like a Jaffa cake, it's way chewier.
And then things went from bad to worse.
One of the things that we really wanted to try whilst we were in Dandong is a North Korean beer. And we'd read a little bit online about how some of them are actually fake and they're made here in China. And unfortunately, like the cakes, we've just checked the back of the bottle and this isn't a legit one.
But we did find something that was definitely North Korean. This is a booklet full of North Korean money. That is sick. This cost £3. And also something that would help take away some of the pain of being scammed. A grenade, which is full of alcohol. Jesus Christ. But we were not going to give up on our North Korean beer dream just yet.
We are about to head back out and try and find a bar that will serve us a cold North Korean beer. A real one, we want a real beer.
But before trying to find a North Korean restaurant, we got distracted by another famous food.
The other thing that Dandong is famous for is its strawberries. Oh, it smells so good. They're huge and they taste so sweet. Whoa.
Whoa, wow.
That tastes so good. But after a succulent strawberry, we headed to the Korean Quarter in search of beer and North Korea's national dish.
That is the plan. Although right now it's feeling very quiet.
But the signs were positive. We can already tell that there is Korean cuisine and drinks. But it wasn't that straightforward, because not only were we battling against Google Translate,
Dong folk cuisine,
but also,
there is one woman's face on almost all of the restaurants. She's everywhere.
but after looking around, we had to trust our gut instinct and pick somewhere, which in a country where Google reviews don't really work, can be risky. But we managed to fall on our feet with this establishment. Because not only did they sell authentic North Korean beer, officially brewed in the DPRK,
Haedonggang beer. North Korean beer. Completed it.
but they also offered the North Korean national dish.
So this is the traditional dish of cold noodles. That is delicious.
And after settling up $25 for our meal, we headed out into the unexpected final chapter of our day.
It's just extremely lively out here. I wasn't expecting it to be so lively and there to be so much going on.
The skyline behind us has lit up. In contrast, if we turn our attention this way, the North Korean side is pitch black. There is no skyline anymore, you can't see it. And then that's the bridge lit up, and then this is the Chinese side. It is quite the contrast. And I suppose it just reminds you that it is a very, very different world over there. Although it's unlikely we'd ever ride the sleeper train again, our time in Dandong was eye-opening.
People live here and this operates as a normal working city, and it's just really interesting to have that contrast of city life against the backdrop of North Korea.
The Soviet-style architecture of the city felt exotic and unfamiliar, and the backdrop of the North Korean skyline makes this place feel unique and intriguing. We hope that one day we'll be allowed to legitimately pass over the border to experience North Korea properly, but until then, we'd highly recommend a trip to Dandong. See you in the next one.